So yeah, this was not the news that anybody wanted today. George Pickens is going to be out for the game Saturday in Baltimore, and that changes, well, not really a whole heck of a lot. Good afternoon to you. Good Thursday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. It comes your way every weekday afternoon. I'm glad to have you here. Steelers versus Ravens is a 4:25 p.m. kickoff at M&T Bank Stadium on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this a lot. I don't want to be the bluster guy. I don't have to hype this. I don't want to hype this. I don't need to hype this. It's the biggest game the Steelers will have played in, just this decade. Really? I don't even know that there's a game that comes close to it. We can pretend that when the Steelers were 11-0 in the COVID year, that was really something, and we knew that. We knew they weren't. We saw those. They'd be terrible for 3 quarters, and then Ben Roethlisberger would decide to win it in the 4th. And then that all got unraveled. Playoffs come along, and Ben has the ball snapped over his head, or they go to Kansas City and get slaughtered, or they go to Orchard Park, and that wasn't very competitive either. This isn't that. The Steelers' last AFC North title was in that COVID year. The Steelers' last playoff victory was, well, this obviously sets up both. The Steelers have done what we've witnessed this season on merit. It hasn't been pretty, hasn't been smooth, it hasn't come without significant bumps, including just this past Sunday in Philadelphia. But they've gotten better along the way. As I was telling you guys after covering that loss to the Eagles, that's not a game in which they would have been even peripherally competitive just a handful of weeks ago. They're progressing. They're moving towards something. Who knows what? But everything that they've gotten to date, they've deserved. And that includes this meeting with these consequences in this setting against that opponent. That's awesome. That's awesome. Listen to TJ Watt talking about it after practice today.
Yeah, I think that's the mindset each and every week. I mean, every single game is so important. It's not like these games are weighted differently than the games at the beginning. There is only 17 of them, so we need to take that approach each and every week. Yes, there's more to it just because of the implications with it, but it's not any less important than other games.
All hands on deck. That's been Mike Tomlin's theme. He brought it up after the game in Philadelphia. He's brought it up who knows how many times bouncing off those walls over on the south side. All hands on deck. That's partly his way of, if you're familiar with his history at all and the way he deals with things personally, it's partly his way, I believe, of poking certain guys that might not be 100%. Not many of them are at this time of year. And you're going to start seeing, hearing, and reading a lot of talk about attrition after this game because this is all part of the big 3 games in 11 days gauntlet. But it's also letting them know this is the one where you leave it all out on the field. Don't be worrying about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Don't be worrying about Christmas. Christmas will get here soon enough, sooner than you want it to, actually. And certainly don't be worrying about Bengals or playoffs or anything else. Get this game. Get the division title. Celebrate it. Enjoy it. Have a locker room scene for the ages. Ideally, put it on social media, too. Do it all. Live it up. Make it happen. It doesn't matter who gets it done. It doesn't matter how it gets done. It doesn't matter that George is out. Well, I mean, it's going to matter from a football perspective, but you know what I mean. Get it done. Get it done. All hands on deck. When we come back, I'll be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. check live box scores, track the latest stats, chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck, as promised. Chris, with George Pickens not being able to go in this game, with the Ravens missing or having banged up a lot of their own wide receivers, this is just going to be a slugfest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny that it just seems like every single time we talk. I remember the last time the Steelers and Ravens were playing, I thought that this was going to be some sort of high scoring game, that the way Russell Wilson was playing, that they're going to be able to tear up that secondary, and Lamar Jackson and that number one offense is going to come in. It's going to be some sort of like weird Christmas Day 38-36. No, it was 18-16. It was 6 field goals for the Steelers.
It was a kick fest. Yeah.
And it might just be the same type of game again. It's just hilarious that it just continues to happen with these two franchises.
You know, when I look at it from the Pittsburgh standpoint, a lot of things have changed, not just George being out, but the Ravens have really altered things defensively. They brought Dean Pease back, who's in his mid-70s. He was their defensive coordinator for the better part of the previous decade, and just said, Dean, dude, fix this, man. What are we doing here? Because they were getting gashed left and right, and deep, and really deep. And they were giving up a lot of points. And to their credit, they and Coach Pease made a bunch of changes, not personnel-wise, but schematically, didn't they?
Yeah, and the results have spoken for themselves. We can thank our buddy Matt Williamson for these stats. Through the first 10 weeks of the season, they allowed 29 pass plays of 25-plus yards. That was the most in the NFL. And since then, they've only allowed 3, and that is the least in the NFL. They have absolutely taken those explosive plays that teams were getting through the air and completely nullified them whatsoever. They're not even giving up 1 per game. That's an awesome mark. But there's still a way to attack the defense.
I mean, that's the thing. Here, if you want to stop something in football, you can. The problem is, by throwing the entire house at it, you're going to give up something else. And if I think, all right, well, I'm looking at the Ravens defense now, and it looks totally different. They've got all these guys 100 yards away from me, making sure that I don't, blow up anything big. I'm throwing underneath all day. Can the Steelers do that?
They can. There are certain things they can do underneath. You can, if the Ravens don't want to come out in that too high shell and take away those deep passes down the sidelines because, well, George Pickens won't be there, then maybe the seams will be open for, possibly for Russell Wilson to hit. Who knows? Even Ben Skoranek, like he did against Cincinnati. But there's Pat Freiermuth there. We've been harping on that. There's Calvin Austin who can catch short passes. But talk about giving things up. During this same stretch in which they've limited the explosive plays, they've also been giving up way more explosive runs. They were the best in the NFL during those first 11 weeks. And since then, their percentage of explosive runs allowed has jumped from like 3% to like 11%. It's jumped. And so they are getting gashed a bit on the ground. And that, again, we're talking about, can the Steelers actually test the defense on the ground?
Yeah, I would almost take that if I'm the Steelers as an invitation. You know, if you're going to have a bunch of guys back there worrying deep, especially when the Steelers don't have a deep threat, we can all pretend that the one catch that Mike Williams made, well, he had a couple here, the one in Landover and a couple here at Acrisure Stadium, where you say, look, the Steelers don't feel comfortable throwing to him. I don't know how much more transparent that could be.
Yeah.
So what are your options here? You're just going to line up and go. You're just going to bang. And that's what the Steelers want to do anyway. And if you look at it from the Baltimore perspective, Chris, it's not any different. The Ravens want to play a running game, especially now that they have these damaged receivers going on. This is going to be like even by Pittsburgh and Baltimore standards, this is going to be like 6-3.
It just might be.
If this was being played in Canada, it would be like 2-1. There'd be a safety, and then whatever it is that thing. I don't even know north of the border that you can do that you get 1 point.
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's a name for it, but anyway, they have that. That's what these teams would do. They need to play a game north of the border, neutral site, that'd be just 2-1. I mean, it is going to be low scoring, and it's going to come down to kickers. And if it comes down to kickers, I'm taking the one from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing that I think the Steelers distinctly have an advantage. We talked about that ahead of the last game, and it proved to be true. Justin Tucker is just not the same guy that he used to be, and Chris Boswell is having perhaps his best season and is leading Pro Bowl voting for kickers in the AFC, as he should. He'll probably be all-pro, whether it be first team or second team. He'll probably be all-pro because that's the type of season he's having. And that's absolutely the kind of guy you want to have and could be a difference maker in this game because we put so much focus on the offense and the defense that we completely forget. Special teams, especially in these games, absolutely matters because I remember a game last year. I think it was the game in Pittsburgh. Miles Gilbert has a blocked punt. What if it comes down to something like that?
But it does. That's the dumb part. Okay. We're doing this show all week long and we're offering this analysis. You can do with it what you want. Okay. We're trying our best. We're wasting your time and we're wasting our time. That's what's actually happening here. Okay. Because it's going to come down to something ridiculous like it always does with these two teams. And it's not going to be something smooth like, you see, we forecasted the Steelers would be able to throw against their cover two if they da-da-da-da. And it's never any of that. Okay. It's somebody punched somebody in the mouth and the ball came loose. And you know what I mean? And that's just who these teams are, and that's what this beautiful arch rivalry is all about.
And I think that's why, in a situation like this, obviously you want to have as much firepower as you can. But if you had to choose either T.J. Watt or George Pickens, you can only have one. You want to have T.J. Watt in this game. And
that's interesting. Why do you say that?
Because he's TJ Watt. He is a game record. Now, George Pickens is too, but this is the type of game in which physicality is going to be like you have to win the physical battle in these type of AFC North games, especially when it's Steelers Ravens. And how many times have we seen TJ Watt completely change a game with one play? Whether it's in the first quarter or in the fourth quarter, he comes through more often, and that's not taking anything away from what George Pickens does. And we've seen now his impact on this offense. But it's still TJ Watt. The record when he plays versus when he doesn't play speaks for itself. You want to have TJ Watt in this game, even if he's less than 100%.
When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Time now for today's J1Q. That stands for just one question. And for that, we go to Mark.
Hi, it's Mark Whited. I live in Sarver, Pennsylvania. DK, where in the world would we be this year without Chris Boswell? He has saved us at least 2 games, or at least 2 games all by himself, especially the Ravens game.
Especially the Ravens game. He only had all of the points in that game. Listen, there's a lot of great things you can say about the season that Boz is having, and I'm so glad you brought it up because we don't talk about him enough. Okay, and I'm guilty of that. I shouldn't need a J1Q to get me talking about Boz. Boz is now 38 of 41 on field goals. And you think, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Just wait. He is 7 of 8 from 40 to 49-yard range. He's 11 of 13 from 50 plus. One of them misses was a 60-plus yarder that Mike Tomlin just said, I think he can do anything. He has accounted for, I got to find this number here. He has accounted for 144 of the Steelers' 336 total points. He's half of the offense. He's having a season for the ages. And here again, we can talk about a lot of different stuff as it relates to this team, to this specific matchup. But these things come down to who has the last kick. Is it Boz or is it Justin Tucker? Boz or Justin Tucker? And this season, given whatever has happened to Tucker, and I don't know, and I actually really don't care. I don't cover that team. Even that might not cut it in Baltimore's favor when it comes to this specific facet. Boz has been amazing. He's got not just his coach's confidence, he's got everybody on the team's full confidence. You don't see that, for example, whenever the Steelers have, like, I don't know, a 4th and 7 at a certain yard line in the offense, or I should say 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 at a certain yard line inside the opponent's territory. You don't see that thing where everybody's pouting and going off the field. You know why? Because they know that 3 points is walking onto the field. That's how good he's been. Full credit to him. I would sit here and advocate that he should be the Pro Bowl guy, that he should be the All-Pro guy, except that I feel that it should be acknowledged broadly that this is the best kicker in football. He'll be facing the guy who used to have that title, but it's his now. It's his. He's the best kicker in football. I appreciate the J1Q. I appreciate everybody checking out the new Double Shot show. Be back with another one of these tomorrow.